Hi, there's a lot more attention being given to ADHD, or Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. It's a pretty terrible name, a mistaken name really, because it was given when there were a lot of badly behaved boys in school and they didn't pay attention to teachers. So attention deficit it was called, which is rubbish because it's not a deficit of attention. A misdirection of attention, yes, because those of us who have ADHD are highly distracted. Distracted means that when something catches my eye and I give my attention to it, I forget what's going on around me, what I've just been doing. Unlike neurotypical people, normal's a nasty word in here, we'll use it though. Normal people, so 90% of the population, if they get distracted by something, they're aware of what they've just been doing, they bring their attention back to it. People with ADHD, like me, don't. We switch our attention to what catches our eye. All of our attention is there, we've forgotten what we were doing. And we go off on a little train of thoughts about the thing that's distracted us, which is very enjoyable but very hopeless in school and work and so on. That's a major problem with ADHD. We don't focus well and we don't tend to hold focus, so that if we start a job, there's a good chance we won't finish it. To finish it requires much more effort than for normal people. And it's very hard for people who haven't got this problem to understand it, because they cannot understand why we behave the way we do. When I was a boy, no one had really ever heard of it. I was lazy, daydreamer, didn't pay attention, couldn't complete things, continually in trouble about it. And it wasn't my fault. I just couldn't do anything else. Another of our major problems is we procrastinate. I am an expert procrastinator. Well, not as bad as I was, because I know now I've got ADHD and I know what it's about. But in former years, I could procrastinate anything. I'd look at a problem and think, oh, I must do something about that. And then it was gone for good, vanished, until I next saw the problem and said, oh, I must do something. Never gets done. Not completing tasks, being unsatisfied even with where you've got to. It's a problem for jobs around the house, terrible at work, career, chopping and changing career. Why? Well, nothing seemed to quite fit. There's always something different, something more urgent. So you change jobs, sometimes quite frequently. I'm very forgetful. Short-term memory is pretty bad. It's very easy to totally forget something that I'm doing, I get shifted, perhaps not even distracted. I was doing something on the phone and it said open your reminder app. So I opened the reminder app. Then I didn't know why. It took me an hour to find out how I got there. I have blocks of my life I don't really remember at all. And maybe that's a good thing, I don't know. Doesn't matter. Another sort of problem is we tend to have very low self-esteem. because we've been criticised so much and denied stuff in childhood and teen years, everybody's told us we're hopeless, lazy, incompetent, and we believe it. So we have low self-esteem. If there's a low self-esteem scale, or a self-esteem scale from 1 to 10, then I was mostly -3. Yeah, negative, very negative view of myself. We're also hyperactive. Now, hyperactive means for some people with ADHD, they run around like mad. They can't sit still for a moment. But for others of us, the hyperactive is just a hyperactive brain. My thoughts race all the time, and at night, which means there's a sleep problem. And they don't follow in a nice consequential order, jump all over the place. When I've got to think about a problem, I've got to do it very deliberately with a pen and paper and get it sorted. I may not look hyperactive, but my brain races. Then lots of us have learning difficulties. Dyslexia is common. The lack of focus and lack of attention means that I don't learn things well, don't learn processes. Maths in school, for instance, really not good. Now, like most people with ADHD, the vast majority, I'm very good at some things. I'm a very good hypnotist. I am a very imaginative writer. I'm a specialist in hydrangeas, a flower, that is, if you don't know. But lots of ordinary skills I simply don't have. And it irritates people a bit, and that's sad. I get rejected. Oh, that's another bit of ADHD. I feel rejected more easily than most people. Well, I used to. It's called rejection-sensitive dysphoria. Dysphoria is an old Greek word for a great weight on your shoulders. And I felt rejected most of my life. Once I found out about it, of course, I flipped it. You can't reject me. I don't feel rejected. It's just the way it is. It's a decision. But learning difficulties are there. And there's a problem I had as a child with writing. It's called dysgraphia. My writing was appalling. I taught myself to write as an adult. In grade 6, if I could, I block printed everything, because I got slapped with a ruler if I had bad handwriting. Yep. There's a whole lot of different learning problems. Now, some of them are not ADHD-ish. For instance, there's a lot of bad spellers in the world who are phonetic spellers, by sound. You can't spell English by sound. You make pictures of the words. You can see a word in print and you make a picture in your mind. There's a particular place, up, left or up, right for most people, where you can make a picture of the word. Good spellers do that automatically. People like me try to spell by the sound of the word, and that It works sometimes, but not always. Now, another thing that we're concerned about now, there's a connection between ADHD and PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. And the connection is this: the fear pathway in the brain is more sensitive for ADHD and PTSD. One of the things that's really worth being aware of is lots of people with ADHD tend to be more fearful, that is, anxious. Anxiety is a major sort of problem, as is addiction. Anxiety, big problem. And where it connects with addiction is if you're feeling anxious, you need something to make you feel better. And for some people, that's going to be smoking cigarettes or pot or drinking too much or aberrant behaviour of some sort. That's our story. There's a new book out which is very good. That the right up? Yeah, sorry. ADHD 2 by Drs. Howell and, I can't read this upside down, Ratey, yeah. Good book, really good book. What it doesn't do, because this was published this year, it doesn't talk about sub-threshold ADHD, because a lot of people have ADHD but not strongly enough to get clinically diagnosed by a psychiatrist, or they've got some symptoms of ADHD quite powerfully but not all, so they don't get diagnosed by a psychiatrist. If you've got some sort of emotional problems, behavioural problems, thinking problems, or you know someone who has, it's well worth them getting checked out for ADHD. Because once you know that, then you can just pretend, imagine, act as if I've got ADHD. There's no cure for ADHD, but there's a lot of management techniques. And that's what I'm about. I'm a coach, therapist, hypnotist. So I run coaching programs for ADHD, and I include hypnosis at no extra cost, so to speak, because that works very quickly, very effectively. And it's something that really helps people. And I can point you to other ways of looking at ADHD, other ways of thinking. One of the things that tends to limit us is we grow up with a thinking pattern. And we assume that's how people think. But in fact, there's a whole variety of thinking patterns. And people who've got more than one are more flexible and therefore more creative, more easily able to deal with problems. So I encourage you to get in touch with me. You can go to www.adhdsetfree.com. ADHDsetfree, all one word, .com. You can make an appointment, free chat with me, and see if there are ways I can make your life better. I deal with a lot of addiction, ADHD, anxiety, and lack of motivation. And it's a really effective way to help you. Some people come and visit me. I'm in a town called Healesville in Victoria, Australia, but I work internationally on Zoom, and that's very effective. If I can help you, or you know of someone who needs help, pass it on. This is really, really important. I'm David Townsend, You can find me on YouTube, David Townsend, Hypnosis Expert, and learn more about me. Good to talk with you. See you soon.